Andy, coming back to you, I wanted to sort of pick up also on this whole issue about this dynamic young population and the rise of e-commerce and mobile commerce. Just keen to get your views, how that looks and feels on the ground, and is it driving what would be called an omni-channel model for Debenhams in Malaysia?
Undoubtedly, and there's no question. It was very good that the recent retail conference convention actually had such a focus on it. And Fred pointed out again, that huge 260 million Indonesians, and they've all got a phone. Well, most of them do, and Malaysia, I think, is one of the most connected countries in the world, as is Singapore, and so it's inescapable. You've got to have also a strategy, an omni-channel strategy that takes into account that you really need to be selling online in some capacity. I think Debenhams as a business are doing that very well. They started by, and I think it obviously also depends on the scale of the business you're talking about bringing to the region. I mean, obviously Debenhams being a big company, they were able to set up a Far East distribution centre a few years ago, so the hub is now in Singapore. So building off that, they're now in a better position to actually be able to capitalise on online opportunities as they come about. And I think they launched recently, a few weeks ago actually, on the Zalora platform. With a few brands, 9 by Savannah Miller, Henry Holland, I think Bendelisi Petite as well. That's just the way the nature of the business is going. But I think that being said, it's important for principals, because I come from a bricks and mortar perspective, to balance that necessity of having the product available to the greatest volume possible to everyone, with where they can potentially buy it, with the fact that we're the ones investing on the ground millions into their stores and the bricks and mortar operations. So, and I think that goes beyond pure lip service. I think there needs to be a bit of trade-off in some form, whether it's slight commission or something. It just has to go hand in hand with your bigger strategy. Otherwise, frankly, what's the point down the line? Yes, there may be small figures now. People say a few percent here, 5% by the end of next year in terms of online sales, but that's going to grow. I mean, it's UK is 15, 20% on. So we're just going to see the same escalation here, there's bad news stories here. And coming back, Ian, to the question you asked originally about the economic situation, the situation as it stands, I think this all ties into this discussion, because it's just been announced today that John Little are shutting their final store in Singapore. We've seen the likes of Gap shut stores there over the last year or two. We've seen Larry's Farm close shop. We've seen New Look close shop. River Island failed. It's a very challenging environment. And so, yes, we appreciate as partners the necessity of a principal to have an omni-channel business and to sell online. But I think that the brands that get it right will be the ones who actually do take a holistic approach and say, yes, we need that, but we can't allow our bricks and mortar partners to suffer as well. So how are we going to address that very difficult grey area of making sure that everyone benefits to some degree, and it's not just, yes, online's going to grow and grow and grow at the expense of a bricks and mortars operation. Yes, I take on board that retail, the physical environment has to become much more entertaining and much more of a destination for customers and act as a sort of flagship store. But fundamentally, if that's all it's ever going to be, and people then go out of the store and buy it online, there's no point people like ourselves signing up with any principal partner. So that's really I think the difficult bridge that's going to be increasingly needed to be crossed as the online business grows going forward.
Thanks, Andy.
I think the points Andy made are absolute paramount. Many companies, British companies that went into a number of markets globally 20 years ago, did not think through the power of the online situation, and contractually there was no provision made. And I think it's important that people realise that most of the millennials these days, and I was recently at a meeting with a group of millennials that were showing us how they shop, and many of those millennials don't do anything different than myself these days. They may spend more of their time online and on mobiles looking at product and buy more product, but they still like to have the experience, maybe at the end of each week or the end of the month, either they're taking goods back to a store, they're exchanging goods or whatever. They want to know that they're dealing with a trusted brand. And I see the online situation as almost advertising your business. And those companies that have a fantastic online strategy alongside a bricks and mortar strategy, I believe, will gain greater market share in all markets across the globe. So having the ability to have an omni strategy, I think, is absolutely vital.
Yeah.
And especially in markets such as ASEAN at the moment, because again in the UK, we know that online will probably grow in the next 5 years to about 25% of total retail business. But it will start to plateau. And there are many retailers here in the UK already coming up with quite inventive strategies on how they are pulling their customers through their online presence into their stores, and they're closing the sale in their stores. So, Andy, I'm with you, and I think any company coming into any market needs to do three basic things as far as I'm concerned. They have to make sure their research is absolutely spot on, that they don't just rush into the market without doing detailed research. Secondly, they've got to have resource, and that resource is both in terms of people and finance. They've got to make sure their package is right. And the third thing is they've got to have resolve, because you're not necessarily going to repatriate profits immediately, and it could take 2 to 3 years before you actually see repatriation of profits back to the UK.
Yeah. We can come back onto this online point. But how developed is the online side of your business, and do you, if it is, do you use it as a sort of lead into test markets?
Absolutely. I think for us, we're fortunate in a way as a British brand that we have come to the international party a little bit later. So we've been able to learn some of the lessons that maybe some of other brands have that launched with bricks and mortar in the 80s and 90s and are now looking back over their shoulder at how they actually manage the online. For us, in our partner selection, we've actually been quite careful to ensure that we've got partners who, at the appropriate time, can come on the online journey with us, and therefore can fulfil that omni-channel criteria. Yeah. For us, it's still developing some of the technology and the ability to be able to whether it's pricing, payment types, the way the page looks, the language, all of those things are things that are evolving for us. But we have struck deals, to be frank, with our partners that, coming back to Andy's point, share that online development. So at the moment we are purely shipping our goods to that international market, and although we don't have, for example, in the Middle East an online presence per se, any sales that are generated in their markets, and I say their markets, we've given them exclusivity, we share the commission with them, as they are our feet on the ground, they are our brand ambassadors, and for us, I guess we've been fortunate in that we can build some of that into our earlier infrastructure, whereas a number of UK brands are having to go back over themselves now, and either try to extricate themselves from deals that they've done, or work with partners that have got very, very established bricks and mortar businesses and actually see the online as a threat rather than an opportunity. And I think and the ASEAN region for us will be no different, in terms of how we take that approach.
Yeah. Yeah.